Hariom students, welcome back and I hope everyone is doing well. We are doing the chapter of friction and lots of things we understood in this chapter as well. We started with the concept of the friction, why the friction takes place, how to change the friction, what are the different factors on which the friction depend, and the applications, disadvantages of friction. And then we started the friction by the fluid in the previous class, that we understood even the liquid and the gas or the things which can flow can give friction to the other object, and that is also called the friction drag or drag friction. So in the previous class we understood the meaning of the drag friction, we understood what are the different factors on which the drag friction depends, and today we are going to talk about the disadvantages of the drag friction and how to reduce the drag friction or the drag. So I hope you will be finding interest in the class today. Let's start the class. So today we are going to start with the very first concept, that is disadvantages of drag. So if I just write drag and drag friction, they are almost same thing, so not to worry. So very first we understood that overall the drag friction opposes the motion of any object moving within it. So if any object is moving within the liquid or in the fluid, then the drag will oppose the motion of the object, and we know what will happen finally. The speed of the object within the liquid or the fluid will decrease. So we can say it slows down the object moving within fluid. So we understood if we have fluid, that fluid can be anything, the water or the gas or the air we can say, and if an object is moving within it, so this is the object moving in one of the direction, that is having some speed, so we know the drag friction will take place in opposite direction. So here F is your drag friction, which is always opposite to the motion of the object in this case, and what will happen finally, the speed of this object will decrease. So the drag friction always reduces the speed of any object moving through a fluid or moving within a fluid. So I hope this is understood. That is disadvantage we have. Number 2, that is wastage of energy. So the concept is, since within the fluid, if any object or any machine is moving, just take an example. Now we have a machine, like we have submarine. Just take an example that is within the water. So just imagine we have the water, and within the water we have the submarine, which is nothing but a machine, and it is moving in a particular direction, so it will have some motion. Okay, so this is the fluid and it is having a motion in one of the direction, and it will get the friction drag in the opposite direction. Now if this submarine has to move forward, then it has to overcome this friction drag or drag friction, and to overcome this drag friction, somewhere more energy will be utilized, because if you have to overcome any friction, extra energy is required, and in that way we can say somewhere there will be some wastage of energy or wastage of fuel. So since it is working on the fuel only, so to overcome this drag friction, extra fuel will be utilized, so somewhere there will be wastage of the energy, that we can say here. So to overcome the drag friction, extra fuel will be required. So overall the energy will be wasted somewhere. Okay, I hope this is understood. That is the second disadvantage we have, wastage of energy because of the drag friction. Now based on this same concept, we have the third one, that is low efficiency of machine. So in the one of the classes we understood the meaning of efficiency. If any machine we have, it will take some input. Input is the fuel which is utilized by the machine, and it will give some output also. So output is the work done, or we can say motion. So overall any machine has the input that it will consume the fuel or the energy, and it will give some output, means it will do some work, it will move in a particular direction. So overall if I say input is I and output is O, so efficiency of any machine is given as output upon input. So if we take the ratio of the output by input of a particular machine, that will be the efficiency. So in this case what is happening here, overall there is a wastage of energy. So if you understood the energy will be utilized extra, means the input will be increased. So because of the drag friction, more fuel has to be utilized. So what will happen, the input will be increased, means the machine will take more energy. So you understood, if this input will increase, then finally this efficiency will decrease, because we know in the concept of the ratio, if any number will increase or decrease in the ratio, it will affect the overall ratio, we can say overall the answer that we have. So less will be the denominator, more will be the efficiency, and more is the denominator, less will be the efficiency. So since the input will increase, overall efficiency will decrease. That is the concept of low efficiency of machine due to extra consumption of fuel. So I hope you understood that since the machine will consume more fuel to do the same amount of work, overall it will have low efficiency. So we can say more energy or fuel will be consumed for a given work. So for the same work, more energy is to be given to the machine, so automatically it is giving the less output in the same energy. Am I clear? So that is how the efficiency of the machine will go down. So these are the three main disadvantages, but you can find out more other examples or disadvantages of the drag friction, because there is no limitation of any topic in science. Okay, but I have given you three main concepts, that is overall because of the drag friction the speed of any object within the fluid will decrease. Second, to overcome the drag friction, more energy will be utilized by the machine, so overall there will be some wastage of energy. And third one, because more energy will be consumed by a machine to overcome the drag friction, so efficiency of the machine will decrease, means it will do less work in the high quantity of energy or fuel. So I hope this is understood. Now let's move to the next topic, and that is the last topic of this chapter today, and then this chapter will be over. So overall we understood the drag friction has disadvantages, so somewhere we need to reduce the drag so that we can have some benefit somewhere. So that is the next topic we have, methods to reduce drag friction or simply drag. Okay, so and it's very simple concept that if we know what are the different factors which will decide the drag friction, so we know how to increase and decrease the drag So overall, if you remember, the factors affecting the drag friction is, very first is the nature of the surface, that is what is the nature of the object which is moving within the fluid. If the object is having rough surface, smooth surface, that will decide the drag. Second one, the speed of the object. If the speed is very high, what will happen? More will be the drag friction, and less is the speed, less will be the drag friction. And third thing is the overall area in contact with the fluid. So by changing the area in contact, means by changing the shape of the object, by changing the speed of the object, by changing the nature of the surface of the object, we can somehow change the drag friction, and that is what we are going to discuss today. So very first, we understood the very first method should be reduce the speed of object moving in fluid. So we understood in the previous class, more is the speed, more will be the drag, less is the speed, less will be the drag. So we can say less speed, less drag friction. So we can control the speed of an object in the fluid or moving within a fluid, and in this way we are able to overcome somewhere the drag friction. So we can say less the speed, less will be the drag friction, and you can experience it practically. Like if the wind is blowing and if you try to run within the atmosphere, if you try to walk within the atmosphere, you see when the speed of the wind is very high, you start facing more problem to overcome that drag friction when you start running. So running within the atmosphere will be a problem for you as compared to the walking. So when you run within the atmosphere, it is understood you are able to feel more drag friction and you find difficulty in running. But you start walking within that atmosphere somewhere, you will have less drag and you will not find that much of difficulty. Same thing, if you are swimming in the water, more will be the speed of your swimming, more will be your difficulty in swimming, and very soon you will get tired. So you can somehow reduce the speed and can reduce the drag friction. So we can control the speed of the object. So I hope you understood, less speed, less will be the drag friction. Second, that is we can say polishing or coatings the object. So we understood in the previous class, if any object will try to move in a fluid, it will get the drag, and if you remember the concept of the skin drag. So skin drag mostly takes place because of the irregularities of the surface. We know more will be the irregularities, more will be the space for the molecules of the fluid to occupy, and more will be the number of molecules of the fluid, more will be the skin drag, that we understood in the previous class. So we can reduce the skin drag by reducing the irregularities of the object. So less will be the irregularities, less will be the number of molecules of the fluid that will come at rest within the irregularities, and it is understood finally the bonding between the molecules in motion and the molecules at rest will be less, so automatically the skin drag will reduce. So for this we can have a coatings means you form a layer of some fluid, like painting can be done, oiling can be done. So if you paint the object, if you put oil on the surface of the object, finally what will happen, it will become quite smooth, it will become quite slippery, and once it will become slippery, automatically the skin drag will reduce due to reduced in the irregularities. So coatings is nothing but forming a layer of some surface which is having very less irregularities. Like we can take the help of the paint, oil and polishing as well. So painting, coatings, all things can be done or we can have an object and over it we can put a layer of some other material. For example, in general the metals have very low irregularities, so over the object we can have a layer of some metal, and that is called coatings. So if you put a layer of some metal over the object, automatically somewhere the irregularities will reduce and hence the skin drag will reduce. So we can go for the coatings and we can go for the polishing. So we can say with oiling or oil, metal layer etc. over object, we can reduce the irregularities and hence can reduce the skin drag. So we know if any object is having the drag friction, it is because of both pressure and the skin, that is skin drag and pressure drag. So if somehow we can reduce the skin drag, then also overall the drag will reduce and the object can move with less difficulty. So I hope this is understood. We can do the polishing or coatings of the object so that the object can become very smooth, it will have less irregularities and hence finally the skin drag will reduce. So that is one thing. So you can see the aeroplanes we have, the ship we have, or submarine we have, those who are moving within the fluid, their surface is very smooth. Why? Because so that we can overcome the drag friction and the efficiency of that machine can be higher. Okay, so all the things we have in the real lives are based on some concept that we need to find out. Why we need to have a smooth surface, why we need to have a rough surface, we can find out. Okay, so number third, the last method we have. So we know even if we have more area of surface in contact with the fluid, then the friction drag will be high. So somehow we can change the shape of the object so that the area of contact with the fluid will be less. So if less will be the area of contact with the fluid, what will happen? Less will be the drag friction. So we can say by specific shape. Okay, so overall, just take an example. If you have to move this object in the air, you know, lots of surface will come in contact and it's difficult to move it forward. So lots of pressure drag will come on its surface. Even this surface is quite high, so skin drag will take place, pressure drag will take place. So finally it will be difficult for you to move this within air if the speed of wind is very high, and same thing if you want to move within the water also, you'll find difficulty. So moving the object this way is quite difficult in this case because of the surface area. So if we imagine this object, now you know the front portion is very sharp, we can say, that is the front area is very less in contact with the atmosphere. So finally what will happen? The front friction will reduce, that is called pressure drag. So if front portion of the machine or front portion of any object in the atmosphere or in the water is narrow, then automatically less will be the area in contact, less will be the pressure drag. And same thing can be done at the side surface. So even if the side surface is quite bendy, or we can say circular in shape somewhere, curve in shape, then what will happen? Even the air, once it will try to move over the surface, very less molecules of the fluid will be able to come in contact. So if we have this kind of shape of the object, most probably less number of molecules will come in contact with this object because of the shape, and then finally we can reduce the friction drag. So this kind of shape is basically called streamlined. So this we understood from the nature only. So sometimes we are able to learn something from nature, not sometimes but most of the time we are learning from the nature. So streamlined shape is something like this, that is the front portion is narrow, somewhere at the center it is quite broad, and again at the back it is quite narrow. So wherever you see this kind of shape, it is called streamlined shape. So in this case, finally what will happen? Very less area in front will come in contact with the fluid. Same it is, since it is bending, so very less molecules will be able to come in contact. So what will happen? Most of the molecules will pass straight away. So you can imagine. So the molecules are coming here, and since the object is bending in front, bending at the back, so here also very less area or surface area, we can say, will come in contact with the fluid. So here also the contact is less, in front also contact is less. Automatically what will happen? The pressure drag will reduce, skin drag will reduce, finally the overall friction drag will reduce, so object can move freely without much disturbance. So I hope this is understood, and that we are learning from the nature. If you see the bird, if you see the fish, this is flying in the air, you can see the shape. Even this has front portion quite narrow and broad at the bottom, sorry, at the middle, and at the back it is quite again narrow. So this is the shape of somewhere with the bird also. This kind of shape we have with the fish also. So that is how the nature is already showing you lots of examples. That is how the God has created this nature. So those who are to survive within the water, like fish or other aquatic animals, you can see their shape is somehow like this only, so that they can move freely within the water. Those who are flying in the atmosphere, in the air, the birds and other creatures, even they have a same kind of shape. So that is how, with the help of this kind of streamlined shape, we are able to overcome the drag friction, and based on this understanding from the nature itself, we are able to give particular shape to the aeroplane. You see the submarine, you see the ship. That is what we have created, artificial, okay, and this is the bird and the fish, that is natural. So from learning with the nature, we are able to create something ourselves, and we have given particular shape to the aeroplane, we have given particular shape to the submarine ship. Now also there are different shape of the car is coming in the market. You can see the front portion is very narrow, so it is understood. You see the rocket also. So any kind of machine which are working within the atmosphere, if they have to fly, if they have to flow within fluid, we have to maintain a particular shape, and almost everyone they have a common type of shape, that is called streamlined shape. So I hope this is understood. By giving a particular shape to the object, we are able to overcome the drag friction, and the best shape we have is the streamlined shape. There you can see here the front portion is quite narrow, that I am writing here, that is front portion is narrow, back portion is also narrow, center portion is somewhere broad. So by having this kind of shape, we are able to overcome the pressure drag, we are able to overcome skin drag, and finally we are able to overcome the friction drag. And hence, based on the same concept, we have made the different machines which are working within the fluid with very less difficulty and with more efficiency and less wastage of energy. So I hope you understood this chapter, friction. Lots of things we understood in this chapter as well. And finally, we understood how the friction drag take place in a fluid and how to overcome it and what are the disadvantages we have. But the only thing that remain here is, if there are disadvantages of friction drag, if any advantages we have. So anything that we have in the nature, they have advantages and disadvantages, but this question is given to you. Find out some advantages of friction drag, means how this drag is helping us in daily life. So find out yourself. That is the question you have today. If we have any applications or advantages of friction drag, find out and explain it yourself. So that is the homework you have today, that is find out the application or advantages of drag friction. Explain. So it's up to you how many advantages or applications you can find out, because somewhere it's really helping us that you need to search out, because something has to be done by you as well, students. So from my side, this chapter is over. In the next class, I'll just be sharing you some questions so that you can practice yourself, and then this chapter is almost over. That is done from all the ways. We have understood the friction, types of friction, why the friction takes place, what are the different applications of the friction, disadvantage of friction, how to reduce the friction or by the fluid, that is drag friction, the methods affecting it, how to reduce, and what are the applications and disadvantages, that we almost done. So for today is done. Very soon we are going to start the next chapter. I'll let you know. Thank you. Ayom.